What's up, guys? Welcome back to Hero Strength, and we're back at it again with another video. And unfortunately, as you guys can see from the caption, I am not going to be competing in August like we planned. Just basically some stupid stuff came up with basically money, and we all know that money is extremely important in bodybuilding because without it, we can't purchase our food. And food is key, especially the fact that I was 5 weeks out when I had to make that decision that I couldn't compete. There was, as important as it was to me, I just knew that, there's just certain times where you do have to, prioritize what's going on. I have never given myself a day off in 3 years. And I mean, granted, bodybuilders do it longer, but the amount of stuff that I've sacrificed in between is just why I just am allowing myself, let me just relax. So this is like probably about 3 days before I had to make that decision. So you guys will see just a little bit of how that training went. So, we're just warming up right now with the lying leg curls. I used to warm up very, with a lot of repetitions all the time, and I haven't done that in a while. So, I'm trying to go back to my roots. I feel like that's extremely important because when I look back, which is important for anybody to do, in 5 years, I might look back and say, this, that, and the third. But if I do notice a body part that is lacking when it was developing pretty well, then I will go back and look at the training that I was doing or the physique that I had and really try to think about, okay, what was I doing that made it different compared to now? So a big thing that made it different was just, repetitions and the type of training that I kind of did. So that's basically what I am doing now, is just a lot of more repetitions when it comes down to my hamstrings. My hamstrings, for a couple of years, actually have been pretty dominant. It's been pretty easy to make them grow for having like a great side chest. So I try, I haven't really changed anything all that much. I know when I was in Texas that the only thing I wasn't doing was I wasn't training them as frequently. And I did see the difference. So now I make sure that I have a quad day and a hamstring day. But right here, what I do is I do like where I keep my body elevated. And the reason why I do that is because at the very end of the movement, I can really feel the hamstrings right under my glute. And it's very important to have that for a glute hamstring tie-in when you're doing your side chest and everything. So it's like I have a great hamstring drop, but I need to make sure that I have a good tie-in as well. And then I go and I'll do the full lying down, because for me personally, the stretch is, king when it comes down to this movement for me. So it's like, you got to think that you're building up a lot of tension in the upper part of your hamstring. And then when you go ahead and lie down, now all that blood is there. So now when we go all the way down and all the way up, you're stretching and letting that blood flow all throughout your hamstring. So it makes for a better pump and obviously for better hamstring development. Okay, and then right after that, we go into some Smith machine squats. Nothing too fancy here. The only difference, because I do back squats for my quads and I do them for my hamstring, it's always just depending on how I feel it. That's basically the way that I always explain it to people. Because for me, I can't just go into a squat movement or to a heavy movement and just lift and go up and down. I can't. For me, I have to put, my mind into the muscle. That's me. And I know a lot of people say, well, you need to lift heavier. You need to lift heavier. My legs actually, for posing and everything, are actually pretty dominant. There's nothing really lacking as far as size. And so, I feel like because I've stuck to what I know how to do personally, that works for me. So basically the way that I think about it is on the way down, I try to focus on all that pressure going between the hamstring and glute like I've mentioned before. And then as I come up, I'm squeezing my full glute, the upper part all the way down, and even my hamstrings. And I make sure that I don't really lock my legs, only if I'm lifting really heavy and I feel like I can lift heavy that day. then that's when I'm going to go ahead and lock my legs, because, you know, you need that little bit of time in between. But right after that, I went to the hyperextensions, and, you know, here I'm again focusing on that stretch between my hamstrings and glutes. And as I'm coming up, I'm trying to, you know, stay away from my lower back, and I'm trying to squeeze my glutes, or you can say kind of in a way a hip thrust on the way up. And that's, again, I'm trying to focus between the hamstrings and glutes. Here, you know, it's not that I'm surprised I can lift heavy, because 225 for me is still heavy weight, but I was just surprised that, you know, I was still able to feel everything doing a superset. That's basically what I mean. And the reason why, again, I personally stay away from like super heavy weight is just because I feel like if you can't feel the muscle and you're not dominating that muscle every single rep and every single set, then there's really no muscle development. Like, just because you're lifting heavy weight does not mean that you, like, you know, with powerlifting, if you look at powerlifters, most of them don't have huge quads and hamstrings. They have big legs, but bodybuilders have bigger legs. But then you see there's strength in the powerlifter, and there's not a lot of strength, quote unquote, with the bodybuilder. So that's why, you know, that is the difference. So if you guys look right here, I'm fatiguing, I'm getting tired, because, you know, when you're trying to have that mind muscle connection, you're really trying to put your mind into that muscle. When it becomes heavier, you're like, dang, you know, I still have to feel it the same way when I had lighter weight. That's the big part about when people ask, you know, how much weight should I be doing? That all depends on you. If you can handle the weight, if you can feel the same amount of pressure, the everything on the way down and on the way up, if you can still feel that with heavier weight, then, you know, you keep going till you find that limit. But if I can't feel my hamstrings doing 315, then there's no point in me as a bodybuilder doing that. That's where I go with that. So right after that, you know, I just added a little bit of weight. For me, I actually don't do hyperextensions all that much, and that's something that I'm learning that I need to do more, not just for hamstrings and glutes, but also for my lower back. My lower back is very weak, and, you know, back in Texas about 2 years ago, I was deadlifting every single back day, and my lower back was awesome. And, you know, again, this is why it's important that you go back to your training and seeing, you know, what was I doing? Was there development? And that's important, because, you know, some things work, some things don't. That's all. So right after that, I went into the leg press, 5 sets of 15. Nothing too fancy here, same thing. And if you guys look, again, I've lifted heavier weight, but it was all about where I feel it. So for me, I always try to go as low as I can when I'm in the leg press, and it's easier for me to do that when I'm hitting quads. But when I'm hitting hamstrings, you know, my feet are a little bit higher depending on how I feel. But basically, what I try to avoid for myself is I try to avoid feeling my lower back. So that's why, you know, with these, I trapped it enough into my hamstrings and glutes to where this range of motion was perfect for me. But I knew I couldn't go any heavier, because then I start to feel like my lower back starts to curve, and that's where I really try to avoid it for myself. That's just protection. That's just for me to be careful in my training. And if you guys see, I'm still dying with this weight. So that's the important part. You know, you don't really need to force anything most of the time, because, you know, in forcing things or and putting yourself in danger, you really can hurt yourself. Right after this exercise, though, all I did was seated leg curls, about like 3 sets of 15. My hamstrings were done. But that's pretty much it for this video. I thank you guys so much, because I have been seeing that, you know, my other videos that I've been doing these last couple months shot up from 200 views to 500, and that's for multiple videos. I really appreciate you guys. If you guys like the content, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because I put out videos weekly. And please let me know what you guys want to see more of, see less of, and I will see you guys later. Take it easy and be safe.